This is Debt Free in 30, where every week we take 30 minutes and get practical advice from industry experts about personal finance and living debt-free. Here's your host, Doug Hoyes.
Financial planning is a big topic these days. My clients have a lot of debt, so they file a consumer proposal or a bankruptcy to eliminate it. Once they no longer have to worry about high debt repayments every month, they start thinking about what's next. They have their fresh start, but truly starting over means planning for their future. They have the same questions anyone starting over would have. When can they afford to buy a home? How can I save for my child's education or for my retirement? How can I avoid the debt trap again and have a stronger financial future? Who do you talk to when you have financial planning questions? A financial planner. I've talked with two fee-only financial planners on past episodes. Last season, I had Jason Heath on the podcast, and he explained how to find a credible financial planner. And 2 weeks ago, on episode number 213, my guest was Sandy Martin, who gave her thoughts on the difference between advisors that sell products and those who sell advice. On both of those shows, I asked about fees because obviously to hire a certified financial planner, a CFP, which both Jason and Sandy are, it costs money. I have no problem with that. I don't know of any professional that works for free, but obviously cost is an issue, which brings us to today's topic. Can technology deliver good financial advice? More specifically, should you use a robo-planner? That's right. Can a computer give you good financial advice at less cost? And is that a good idea? That's today's topic, so let's get started and meet my guest. Who are you and what do you do?
Hi, Doug. I'm Rona Birenbaum, and I'm the founder of Caring for Clients, which is a fee-only financial planning firm, and the co-founder of Viviplan, which is the robo-planner you described. And
you're a CFP, is that correct?
I am.
So you do both sides of it then?
Yes, I do. And I've been, I'm one of the earliest fee-only planners in Canada. And when we say I do both, I would say what I do with Viviplan is I'm building a company. I'm not necessarily doing the hands-on planning. We can talk about that. So more hands-on planning in my first company, more leadership and growing a business in the second.
Okay, good. So before we start, let me give my standard disclaimer. I've written it down here. It's my show. I pick the guests. I don't pay anyone to be on the show, and no one can pay me to be on the show. I'm not endorsing anything we discuss today. I do this show because my clients ask me questions about robo-advisors and financial planning, and I want to be able to speak intelligently. So that's the goal today. And it turns out your office is a short walk away from my office here at Yonge & King in downtown Toronto, where we're recording today. So let's get at it. What is a robo-planner? How do you define that?
The definition is a moving target. But right now, I define it as a way of accessing unbiased financial planning advice through an online platform versus a face-to-face type of engagement.
And how is that different from a robo-advisor?
The robo-advisor term right now means an investment platform. So that is primarily how people can use technology to simplify and access investment portfolios very cost effectively. The robo-planning, and it's really important for consumers to start to understand the difference between financial planning and financial advice or investment advice. Canadians have typically conflated the two. When they think about financial planning, they've really just assumed it's about how should I invest my money, how much, and what kind of portfolio. And it is so much more than that, and really is a completely different service offering.
So a robo-advisor would be, it'll automatically allocate my money between bonds and stocks and mutual funds and this and that. It's purely an investment thing. Yes. Whereas robo-planning, it almost has nothing to do with investment, I guess.
That's right, almost.
Almost, okay.
With the exception that one's investment portfolio forms one very important foundational element of long-term financial security. So we can't ignore investment strategy and the investment component, but I see it as it is a tool that every Canadian has to create a certain financial outcome. And it's the job of the financial plan to identify how that money should be structured, how the investment should be structured in terms of what type of accounts, RSP versus TFSA, and non-registered, and then to what degree it should get funding attention. Or to what degree it should be drawn on in retirement. But financial planning stays away from the weeds of investing, which is, what investment you should buy, whether it's an ETF or a mutual fund. It does get into asset allocation, though, I will say that.
Yeah, based on age and other factors and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, a financial plan will tell me I should pay down my mortgage as opposed to investing, whereas a robo-advisor, well, give us the money to invest and we'll invest it. It's never going to say, pay down debt, for example.
And it's not going to say that for a couple of reasons. It's not going to say that because it's really not the job of the robo-advisor to do that. It is an investment platform. And secondarily, it's not going to do that because that undermines its ultimate business objective, which is to gather assets. Well,
and that's certainly a topic that was raised when I talked to Sandy and Jason beforehand. When you go to the bank, they have a portfolio of things to sell you, and that's what they're going to sell you. And they are not going to say, hey, you know what, maybe what you should be doing is paying down the mortgage, because obviously that eats into their profits, not the other way around.
And the best example I use for that is when TFSAs were first created in Canada in 2009. And pretty much any consumer who went to the bank was encouraged to open up a TFSA and put some money into a low interest bearing savings vehicle within that TFSA, while at the same time that same consumer had a credit card balance or a line of credit or a mortgage. So I can't tell you how many times I saw that kind of what I would call bad advice. It really wasn't any advice. It was really just, let's get a TFSA
I think you're
open.
right. It's bad advice. And I see that here in this very office. People come in to see me and they've got, they owe $50,000 on their credit cards, but they've got $2,000 in their TFSA. I'm going, well, why? Well, because that's what they told me to do. I thought it was a good idea. We got to save and okay, but you're earning 0% on your TFSA and you're paying 20% on your credit cards. This is kind of, hello. But anyways, we're not going to do a 5-hour show today. So let me go on to the next question, which is, so you've got this company now that is a robo-planner. What problem are you trying to solve with that company?
The problem that we're solving is accessibility and affordability and objectivity of financial advice, and having that being available broadly across Canada to the mass market. That is the problem we're solving. So it's, again, unbiased, accessible, convenient, and affordable.
So, okay, so let's say maybe you can contrast the two options for me then. I can come in and see you and get a traditional financial plan like you've been doing for, a couple of decades, and that's going to cost me X, or I can go on the computer and punch in a bunch of stuff, and that's going to cost me a lot less. What do I get in either case?
You get the same quality of advice. The difference is in the client experience. So with what I would call the bespoke full service engagement through myself or anybody on my team at Caring for Clients, the process is much longer, involves numerous meetings in person, and is much more of an advisor driven experience. It's much more kind of a lot more hand holding involved in that process. The amount of information we gather is the same, so it's just as comprehensive and robust. The degree of customization is the same. So Viviplan is developing customized plans, not cookie cutter results. And then primarily the cost is the difference. So our financial plans at Caring for Clients start at $4,500, and Viviplan is $800. And I think what really surprises consumers and has surprised our earliest Viviplan clients is how robust the advice is at that price point, at that $800 price point. Yeah.
So you explained how it works. If I come the traditional way, I sit down with you many times, you ask a whole bunch of questions, take a whole bunch of notes, I go back and get you more information. Here's my statement for this, for that, whatever. How does it work then if I'm using the robo system?
With the Robo system, it starts with some email communication where we gather some general information about the client just so we know who we're dealing with. And then there is an online onboarding platform where each client will give us the information that we need. And that's a big part of the technology build out because what we're trying to do is replicate a dialogue, a back and forth between an advisor and a client with it being self-serve for the client. So, for example, when collecting information, one question is generally not enough. For example, are your children in daycare? Yes. How much does daycare cost? It costs X. Okay. What's it going to cost when that child becomes 4 and goes into junior kindergarten and just needs before and after school care? Oh, and by the way, when that child is maybe 14 and old enough to stay at home, are you going to want babysitting or are they going to be self-sufficient? And therefore, what's going to happen to the cost structure then? So our questioning platform walks the client through all of those questions so they're able to give us that kind of granular information in all aspects of their lives. So they go through a number of modules, which starts with a goal setting module, because any useful financial plan is a goal-driven plan. What do you want to get out of life? We need to know what that is. And then it walks through cash flow, what you spend on certain things now and how that will change in the future, net worth, your assets, your liabilities, all the details around that. It focuses then on insurance, all of the various insurance components. Things like wills and powers of attorney, we actually require that clients upload those documents so that we can review them. Sometimes the same with other things like pension statements, etc. So the gathering of the information is all online. And then we have an online chat function. So if somebody runs into difficulty while completing it, they can message us and we'll respond immediately. Or it might be the planner responds in a back and forth email.
So how long would it take for that process to happen? Am I sitting in front of the computer for 7 straight weeks typing in all this stuff or what?
It varies. It depends on how organized a client is and how tuned in they are to their finances. So before they start the onboarding process, we provide a getting ready list. Here is what you need to gather before you sit down with your coffee or your glass of wine or whatever it is that makes you happy. And we help the client prepare for that. And so, our clients are saying it can take anywhere from an hour to 90 minutes. And or more if a client needs to step away and find information. So, for example, we'll ask for information around one's group RRSP plan, and there's usually matching, company matching. And so a little bubble will pop up that say, this is the question you should ask your HR people to get that information. So, for example, we got a message from a client yesterday saying, can I step away and come back? Yes, as many times it's automatically saved, and
because obviously you're logging in, so it's your information.
And Viviplan can tell where you are at the process. So if it's been a while since you've logged in and you're losing your mojo, we'll reach out and say, "Hey, how's it going? Come on back. How can we help you?" And then we're also notified when the onboarding is complete so we can move the client into the next phase. And the next phase is us essentially, there is a plan building process, and then the client gets what we call the assumptions document, which is these are all of the assumptions underlying the development of your plan. Please let us know if this works for you, if this is accurate. And we want clients to sign off on that because that's the premise on which the plan is going to be built.
So there's all these list of assumptions. We believe this, and that. You got this many kids. This is what your income is, your assets, and so on. And then from there, they get a plan.
That's right. And ultimately, the technology will be more aligned with what you would expect robo to mean, where there will be a pipeline of the data into the plan being automatically generated. Right now, we are actually having planners build those plans on a custom basis, because this is an opportunity that we're taking to really understand what kind of reporting the client wants, what kind of engagement they want, before we completely build out the financial engine technology. We want to make sure it's created around something that's most meaningful to the client. Most software out there right now is developed for the advisor and for the planner, not with the end client in mind. So we're going to do it right, and we're going to do it with our hat on, sitting as the consumer. So what they get within, generally speaking, depending on volume, a week or two, is the full financial plan, which is a written document, including all the charts and graphs that confuse people, but more importantly, the content, the text, which is to say, these are how you're going to meet your goals. And these are the action items you need to take in all aspects of your life. And this is why. It's really important. The why is so important because otherwise it just sounds prescriptive. But, to be motivated to take action, whether it is to accelerate your debt repayment at the expense of savings, or accelerate education funding at the expense of, I don't know, the gym membership that you never use, whatever the case may be, there's got to be some kind of motivating, psychologically driven rationale. So we're very keen on giving that context.
And I'm thinking about this. So I can go what you said, the $4,000 or $5,000 route of having an in-person one. I can go the $800 route of going the robo route. I would think the advantage of going the personal route is there is some accountability there. So like you say, okay, I go on the computer, it takes 90 minutes, I punch in all the information, 2 weeks later I get this document, and the document, sits right beside my gym membership card, neither one of which I'm using. I would assume then that there are some people who this is more suited to than others. That, okay, some people, I need that personal face there to kind of crack the whip and, push me in the right direction. Whereas other people, perhaps what I really need is the knowledge and I can implement it myself. Would that be a way to determine whether you go for A or B, or is that not the way you look at it?
It isn't the way we look at it. I would say the majority of people do need an accountability partner of some sort. Even those that are very self-managing value a second opinion. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's because it gives them that extra level of confidence to move forward with their plans. Sometimes it's to get a spouse or partner on board. And so that objective support and service is helpful regardless. What's really key in what we're doing at Viviplan is ensuring that there is an accountability and coaching component of what we do. So once the plan is developed, an actual planner has a virtual meeting with the client to walk through the plan, to answer questions, to get buy-in and engagement. And then what's coming very soon is a monthly service for those who want it that will provide ongoing insights into how your money is being spent relative to the plan, and how your assets and liabilities are moving relative to the plan objectives. And then an ongoing access to the planner for ad hoc information and advice, and an ongoing dialogue, ongoing encouragement, accountability, check-ins, etc. So for example, if by September or December of 2019, you should have fully funded your RRSP, there's going to be an email that goes out that says,
yeah. Have you done it?
Have you done it yet? So there are ways to actually use technology to not replace what a person can do, but to actually communicate and do outreach the way a human being would if they were paying attention.
I mean, I can see some obvious advantages to this. One of them being all the data collection, that a computer can do that probably just as well, if not better, than a human being. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to think this through from a business point of view then. So instead of charging $4,500, you're charging $800. Obviously, you don't have to spend as much time on it, but I don't see how you can make any money charging $800, especially if you're going to have a virtual meeting with the person and a real person is actually looking at it and everything. So what's the further monetization strategy here? Are you going to have other partners involved? Are you going to have other services that you sell related to it? What does the future hold here?
Yeah, so the next step of our financial model is that monthly service. Mm-hmm. So for those that really want an ongoing partner in the management of their financial lives and an advocate for their personal finances, they'll want to become what will likely be a Viviplan Gold member. That will have a monthly fee I don't know. We're doing some market research now on what that fee should be, and then that is your kind of monthly recurring revenue model. And our objective is really just to provide sufficient value that will keep people engaged on a monthly basis. And that can be a very, very powerful model when you realize that Canada is our market. The majority of Canadians is our potential market. And then beyond Canada, there are other countries that would apply as well.
Gotcha. Okay. So,
and just to further answer your question in terms of other services, I'll be very, very clear. This is not going to be an advertisement-driven model. There will be no ads on the page. It's not a lead generation type of model. It's eyeballs on our website are not important to us. But one of the, again, important components is plan implementation. So for us, success is not in the delivering of a plan. It's knowing that a client has actually implemented it. And that will sometimes require third-party professionals like lawyers for a will or accountants or mortgage brokers or whatever the case may be. So it is in our best interest to help clients find those great resources. And that's something that we're going to be looking to build out, again, maintaining really the unbiased nature of the work that we do.
And that's the conundrum, right? So
it's not a conundrum.
But if you need a will, then I agree. You got to have a lawyer do it. Having me, the accountant, draft it up would be a stupid idea. So if I've come to you for help, I'd like you to say, yeah, you need to go to a lawyer. And my next question will be, well, which lawyer should I go to? Yes. Well, there's 5 guys down the street who we've checked out. We know they're good. But then you always worry, well, is that introducing bias? Like, how much of a kickback are the lawyers giving you to prepare the will? How do you get over that hump?
Well, you just don't take a kickback.
Okay, so it's as simple as that. So here's lawyers we've checked out, but we're charging you, the client, and that's the only money we get. So we're completely unbiased from that point of view.
That's essential. I think that it's really the only way that consumers can feel confident that the advice and support that they're getting is truly in their best interest. And I think that it's a more challenging business model. No question about it. And I think that's why nobody has taken it on. But I know how to deliver value. Okay. And so I have complete confidence that we can have a business model that will be profitable and viable so that the majority of Canadians don't call it financial planning anymore. They say, I don't want a financial plan. No, I want a Viviplan, because that's really going to be the gold standard. Just like you don't want a tissue, you want a Kleenex. So the service and the product is being designed to have that kind of impact. And if you can have that kind of impact in people's lives, then there's a business model to support it.
Yep. Yeah, and you're right. It's a volume thing too. With one person, it's not going to work, but with all of Canada, it would be a no-brainer. So, tell me about the potential clients for this then, and let's maybe do it age range wise. So, if I'm early in my career, so I've graduated from school and I'm a year or two into it, would I be a candidate for something like this?
You would be. Your goals and the focus of your plan would differ from a pre-retiree. There are a number of components to a financial plan, and some get more attention than others depending on where you are in your life cycle. So cash flow is the cornerstone of every financial plan. For someone that's just coming out of school and trying to kind of position themselves for the future, that becomes a really core component of it, particularly from our standpoint, because cash flow management skills, if you learn them and get them right early on, it serves you so powerfully over the long term. So things like the cash flow piece becomes really, really key, and helping clients understand risk management and insurance. So for example, when a young person gets their first job and they have benefits, they need to understand what those benefits are. They often kind of give them short shrift, but we want to understand, or want them to understand, what those benefits do and don't do. So I would say cash flow and debt management, and just starting to figure out how to save and what those savings can do for them over time would be the focus for them.
And for somebody who is at the end of their career, the focus shifts to what?
The focus shifts to retirement sustainability, the timing of retirement. When can I retire? What are my retirement options? What does working part-time look like versus a full-scale elimination of income? And most pre-retirees are really concerned about what's called a decumulation strategy or drawdown strategy. How do I replace that paycheck that was coming into my bank account every month? Where is that money going to come from? And how do I do that tax effectively and at a pace that ensures I don't run out of money before I run out of time?
Yeah, and we're all living longer, so that's a bigger and bigger issue, I would think then. So now you mentioned the word debt and debt pay down. Obviously, there's a show about debt. So what about people that have debt? Can they benefit from this type of plan?
They can, largely because we are debt averse philosophically. Financial planners know that the less debt you have, the more control you have over your life. The stronger you will be over time. Because debt is simply an obligation that ties your hands in the future. So financial freedom and stability and wealth building requires the management and elimination of debt over time. So the only individuals that wouldn't be ready for Viviplan, and you alluded to this in your opening, would be those that are really drowning in debt. And occasionally we will hear from those people that are just looking for help. God, what do I do? And the first step generally is to get advice from a firm like yours, where you can help them figure out how to essentially get out from under the debt so that they can then start to plan their future. There's no point in getting a financial plan when probably the number one piece of advice coming from us would be, get some credit counseling or consider a consumer proposal. They don't need to pay us $800 to hear that. So, but once the debt is cleared or there's a clear debt repayment strategy, then it's time to come to us so we can help them paint a future and not repeat the patterns of the past.
Yeah, you're the step after me.
That's right.
And so if I go online and start filling out the form and I put in that I have $100,000 worth of credit card debt and my income is $3,000 a month, at what point does the plan say, okay, wait a minute here, there's something way more important? Does it kick them out? Have they paid the $800 already? How does that all work?
So the first thing we do is an intake survey before anybody pays anything. So when somebody joins our wait lists or when we're through our wait list, when it's just buy now, they will get automatically a survey that says, tell us what's happening with you, why you're coming to us. And that feedback, if it says, look, I'm overwhelmed with debt, looking to figure out how to get out from under it, then we make a phone call and we have an initial chat with the prospective client. And it's after both the survey and the initial chat where we would identify that they are or not a fit. And I'm glad we're having this conversation because on our website right now, which we're redesigning at the moment, we do outline who is a good fit for Viviplan and who is not. Right now, who is not are Canadians that have very complex financial affairs, operating companies and family trusts and multi-generational estate planning, etc. Those needs are best served by a firm like Caring for Clients. Perhaps what we should do is add an item that says, are you overwhelmed with debt and looking for a resolution there? And if that's the case, I think what we should do is give them some information about what a first step would be best, because then that'll save the time of them coming through us. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, and we do the same thing here. People will come in and say, "Oh, I've got all this debt." Well, it may be that you've got all this debt, but I got $500,000 in debt. Yeah, but you own a house that's worth $2 million. So the debt really isn't the problem. It's a cash flow problem. Sell the house, remortgage, whatever. So you don't really need me. You need a mortgage broker, you got some tax issues, haven't filed taxes, you need a tax person. So I think the role of any professional is to figure out what's the real problem and get them in front of the person who can solve that real problem. And then, okay, great. Now you can go on to stage 2 and do the financial plan, the investing, whatever. So, okay, so I think you kind of alluded to this, but my final question then is, when should I be going to the full service financial planner? And let me be more specific, the fee only financial planner. And when should I be going to the robo-planner? And an obvious answer would be, well, I've only got $800. Okay, then I guess you've only got one choice, go the robo route. Is the robo route primarily for someone who is, trying to save costs? They've only got so much money, or would there be other people who you would say, you know what, go the robo route instead of going the full service route?
Yes. First of all, yes. If you've only got $800, then we're the best game in town. But we're also the best game in town if you have more than $800. And that's when people contact us at Caring for Clients. We do our initial triage, and if we think that they have fairly straightforward planning needs, like not that complexity that I just described previously, and they can get the advice and direction for a much lower price point, then we will recommend that right from the get-go. Because then our best piece of financial advice, as I say, my first piece of financial advice is to not pay $4,500 for something you can get for $8,000. Unless... so, for example, what would be a situation where I wouldn't make that recommendation? All right, somebody calls us and says, we've got this planning, we want to retire, my spouse wants to retire now, I'm concerned that it's too soon, and there is a dynamic there that needs to be managed between two stakeholders. An online platform is not designed to do that kind of counseling. Lots of people, and you've probably heard this before, Doug.
Many times.
That people say, boy, you're not a financial planner, you're a marriage counselor, or you're a therapist. So, Caring for Clients is the therapeutic style of financial planning, if need be, and Viviplan does not have that component. So it's a bonus that it's lower cost, but it's not limited to those who can simply not afford to pay more.
Gotcha. So you got to put the person in the right spot. So, okay, so how can people track you down then?
They can go to our website, viviplan.com, to learn more about what we're doing and who the team is. And then on the Caring for Clients side, it's caringforclients.com. On social media, I'm particularly fond of Twitter, and you can hear our views there, and that is at Viviplan, V-I-V-I plan. And just so you know what Viviplan means, Vivi is the derivation of the word life. Okay? So it is life plan, and that's really the philosophy of what we do. So at Viviplan is where to find us, and certainly if you want to email me directly, it's rona@viviplan.com.
Easy to find. So, and I'll put all those links in the show notes. Are there any final pieces of advice that we haven't hit? Anything that people should have in their minds before we close?
I think what's really important, and it's to reiterate what Sandy Martin and Jason Heath have said before, is I think what's really important is that Canadians realize that there is an alternative to getting advice from a product salesperson. This has been the financial industry since inception for decades and decades and decades. And I don't think Canadians understand that there's an alternative. They're finally coming to terms with the conflicts of interest that exist in the quote-unquote financial advisory field, but they are still struggling with figuring out where they can get that unbiased advice. And so it's the industry is changing, and there's more options now than ever, but it's taking too long to get there. And Canadians deserve to have this now at scale. And that's why Viviplan exists, and that's why it's going to be the leader in this space.
Excellent. Well, and Canadians don't understand the fees they're paying either, because it's free. I go to the bank and it's free. I bought that mutual fund and it's free. So there's certainly an education component here too, that you'd be better off paying some money, and it's not free, but you'd save a huge amount of money. So I think that's excellent advice. Rona, thanks very much for being here today.
Thank you for letting me share what we're doing.
Excellent. Very much appreciate it. That's our show for today. As always, show notes with links to everything we discussed today and a full transcript can be found at hoyes.com. That's HOYES.com. I'll put links to the websites Rona just mentioned. So if you want to contact her, I'll give you all that information necessary to track her down. I've got lots more great topics coming up, so don't miss an episode. Subscribe to the audio version of Debt Free in 30 on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And the video version can be found on our Debt Free in 30 channel on YouTube. So until next week, thanks for listening. I'm Doug Hoyes. That was Debt Free in 30.